Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're heading straight into the heart of Osaka, but um, we're deliberately avoiding the static monuments.
Right, none of the grand temples this time.
Exactly. We are plunging into a place that is defined by pure, relentless movement, by flow.
And that place is Osaka's Yodogawa ward.
We've taken all your sources, the histories, the local guides, all of it, and our mission is to really extract that deep historical context.
And we're focusing on how this area has been just, continuously shaped by intense change rather than by preservation.
Think of this as your shortcut, your essential guide to understanding one of Japan's most critical northern gateways.
That concept of movement, of flow, is absolutely key here. The sources all emphasize that Yodogawa isn't just a neighborhood. It's a strategic hinge.
A hinge? How so?
Geographically and historically, it's the interface. It's what links these massive power centers, Kyoto, Nara, Kobe, all of Western Japan, directly into Osaka City.
So it's all about connection.
It is. Its history is all about fluidity and vicissitude, which is really just a way of saying constant dramatic change.
So our mission for you today is to link 5 specific and I think really fascinating historical stories to 5 modern sites.
Exactly. And these stories are rooted in the area's core identity. We're talking water transport, sudden shifts in faith, and, cometer adaptation.
This is the kind of knowledge that turns just a simple walk into, well, a really profound historical experience.
Right. And the theme, really, when you boil it down, is tension.
Tension.
Yeah. We're exploring how these big macroeconomic demands, the need for efficient transport, for commerce, clashed harshly with the reality for the local people on the ground.
And the really wonderful part is seeing how that messy, often painful legacy turned into these completely unexpected modern attractions.
Places for deep cultural reflection. This is history you can actually feel, that you can walk through.
Okay, let's unpack this with the source material.
To understand the flow, we have to start with the water. With the Yodogawa water system during the Edo period.
This river was everything.
It was the nation's lifeblood, the core logistics channel for transporting rice, goods, people, everything between Kyoto, Osaka, and out to the Seto Inland Sea.
They called it the Golden Water Route, right? It literally fueled Osaka's rise as the kitchen of the nation.
It did. And the commerce on it was so specialized. You had these big vessels, the 30-stone boats, the Sanjigokubune handling all the long-haul freight.
But then you also had the small-scale entrepreneurs on the water.
The famous Kurawanka boats. The Kurawankabune.
Tell us about those. They sound amazing.
They would just zip up alongside the bigger ships mid-journey, selling meals and snacks to travelers. It was like a floating, non-stop commercial highway.
The buzzing environment.
A massively thriving macroeconomy, but the sources immediately point to a structural flaw, a key tension.
The big picture versus the small, local reality.
Precisely. You had the macro logistics on the main Yodogawa River, which, benefited the whole country.
And then
you had the crippling local burden, which was focused on the secondary but still essential Kanzaki River.
Okay, so the Kanzaki was the crossing point that the land routes depended on. And that's where the pain started.
That's exactly where it started. The Kanzaki River area, home to these small villages like Tsukuda and Shwada, they bore the brunt of it.
The Kanzaki crossing, or Kanzaki no Watashi, was a mandatory link for the Western Country Road.
It was. But here's the rub. Those villages were required to provide official crossing services. It was called kuchikawago.
Which means?
And it means mandated free labor and free transportation for any official government travelers. Messengers, officials, sometimes even troops.
Wait. So the same system that's generating all this wealth for Osaka is simultaneously demanding uncompensated labor from these local communities.
It's a heavy price for being geographically critical, isn't it?
It sounds like a massive, unfunded mandate imposed from the top down.
That's what it was. The villages had to constantly invest in maintenance, keeping these auxiliary boats, tsukabun, ready at all times.
Even though a huge chunk of the traffic they serve pay them absolutely nothing.
Nothing. And the cost of maintaining a safe ferry, especially during high water season, was just crushing. The sources show this pressure, made worse by things like the Great Famine of 1732, led to the complete decay of the local post stations.
The local costs just vastly exceeded any benefit.
And that takes us directly into our first historical story. The slow, painful decay of that Kanzaki ferry.
The official accounts, like the Setsumecho Zui, they tried to keep up appearances, right? They'd write things like, pedestrians never ceased day and night.
Pure myth-making. Because the reality was that the high proportion of free crossings meant the whole thing was collapsing under the economic stress.
And this decay wasn't subtle,
Not at all. It was so visible that major travelers of the day actually recorded it.
which makes it undeniable historical fact.
Consider the great Japanese mapmaker Inu Tadataka, a man whose entire life was about precision and fact. When he passed through in 1808 while he was mapping the entire country, he explicitly recorded the lonely appearance of the Kanzaki village in his measuring diary.
Wow. The lonely appearance. For a surveyor to note that, it speaks volumes.
It really does. And we see the same observation again in 1853 in the diary of attendants accompanying another official, Kawaji Toshikira.
So if we visit today, what's the hidden gem? It can't be a grand ruin.
Fascinatingly, no. The site is just the Kanzaki riverbanks themselves. Today, they function as a quiet, sort of reflective lookout spot.
So there's nothing there to see.
The gem for the traveler is the absence, the quiet. Standing there, you reflect on that intense historical burden and you realize this silence is the history. It's the sound of technological change, of rail and road replacing the river.
The silence is the story. That's powerful.
It is.
Okay, let's shift from a human burden to, well, a divine one.
Yeah.
Our second narrative, the typhoon force deity at Kamata Shrine.
Right. This is in the Higashimakuni area. The shrine is dedicated to some very high-status deities, Toyuki Shikami and Wakekazushi Shikami.
And the story goes that the main deity was actually the spirit of Harima Province's Muro no Mushin.
A spirit with a very important pedigree, a branch of Kyoto's sacred Kamigamo shrine. So, a big deal.
The plan was to move this spirit south to a new home.
Yes. But mid-journey, during the very volatile Muromachi period, they were hit. A fierce typhoon right in the Yodogawa area.
And the storm was so powerful.
So powerful it halted the entire party. The divine spirit was literally forced to take refuge, and it settled there permanently.
That is an incredible origin story. It elevates Yodogawa. It's not just a logistics hub anymore. It's a geographic buffer zone.
A buffer zone so powerful it could stop and reroute even the gods.
It's like the deity's commitment to the locals was proven because it literally couldn't leave.
Yeah.
How is that story remembered today?
It's remembered in the land itself. The gem is the shrine, of course, but specifically you have to see the relics of the giant camphor trees, the Kusunoki Ukabu.
So not living trees.
No, these are the immense ancient stumps that remain. Some are so large that people have installed small subshrines directly on top of them.
Like little altars on the stumps.
Exactly. They stand as life monuments. They physically connect that violent, dramatic past of the deity's forced arrival with the present. It's a testament to the resilience of the land.
I can just picture that, these ancient stumps as silent witnesses. Okay, for our third story, we're going back to engineering, but with a really unexpected ecological twist.
Right, the functional transformation of the river's infrastructure. We have to talk about the groynes, or suseku.
These were built during the peak of Yodogawa shipping.
And they were purely commercial infrastructure. A groyne is just a man-made wall, usually stone or earth, that juts out into the river.
And its purpose.
Purely to manipulate the current. To prevent erosion and keep a clear, fast channel for the shipping boats. Utilitarian, that's all they were.
Designed to enforce the macro logistics of that golden age.
Yes. But then came the great functional transformation. Steam paddle boats arrived in the Meiji era, and crucially, the rail network expanded.
And river shipping just plummeted.
Today, the commercial volume is, about 1/20th of its peak? So the coins, they lost their purpose. They became obsolete.
But that's where the hidden gem comes in, and it's this brilliant irony.
It is. These old utilitarian structures now create these slow-moving, calm backwater areas along the riverbanks. Locally, they're known as wando.
The groyne ecological zones.
It is a perfect case of what you could call unintentional reconciliation.
Unintentional reconciliation, I like that.
The wando are now these essential, quiet habitats. They're vital breeding grounds for freshwater fish, aquatic insects, all kinds of birds.
So functional obsolescence turned into environmental enrichment.
That's it. Ancient engineering created these, frankly, ugly walls, which then became essential cradles for life. History, it turns out, can be a fantastic, if accidental, environmental planner.
It's another proof of the area's dynamism. So, for our fourth story, we move from water to land. To Juso Shopping Street.
Right. Juso, the area, just exploded into this vital hub almost entirely because of its position on the Hankyu Railway network.
And its main shopping street, Juso Honmachi, is described in the sources as a vibrant mixture of new and old.
Shinki Irimajita, it really embodies this urban resilience in a way that, a modern standardized mall just can't.
It feels like the real soul of Osaka's commoner culture, the showman culture, is preserved there.
It is. The street's strength is that it proudly showcases the personality and the history of each individual store. It's a living archive of commercial tenacity.
And that tenacity is the hidden gem.
It is. It's not a museum piece. It's the experience of walking the nostalgic street corners, especially in Juso Honmachi Tucom. You see the layered history and the fading Showa-era signs, the old architectural styles that just refuse to be replaced.
It's a direct, visceral connection to that adaptable commercial history.
Exactly.
Okay, finally, our fifth story. This one represents the most violent, instantaneous transformation in the area's history, the Mikuni district.
The sources call it the instantaneous layering of history, and that's the perfect description. Historically, Higashi-Mikuni was just traditional farmland. The name Mikuni itself suggests it was a boundary point for 3 ancient provinces.
A slow, pastoral setting.
And then an instantaneous, irreversible break with that past.
1964.
1964. Japan is accelerating into its post-war economic miracle. The construction of the Tokaido Shinkansen and Shin-Osaka station. It just brutally converted this quiet area into the core of Japan's high-speed rail network.
It went from a frontier of agriculture to a frontier of modernization overnight.
Literally overnight.
So the gem here has to be that contrast itself. How do we experience that today?
By walking it. The key for the cultural explorer is to first walk the remaining old residential alleys near Kamata Shrine. Feel that traditional, slow urban texture, the stillness. And then you immediately go to the Shin-Osaka station viewing platform, and you witness the grandeur and sheer speed of the Shinkansen network rocketing across the landscape.
That juxtaposition forces you to confront 2 entirely different eras of Japanese history in just a few minutes' walk. The slow past and the high-velocity present.
And you realize that history in Yodogawa isn't just about what's preserved. It's about how the land was used by farmers in the 1800s versus how it's used today to connect an entire nation at 300 kilometers an hour.
So if we connect the threads of these 5 narratives, the decay leading to reflection, the typhoon, the commercial failure leading to ecological success, what's the ultimate synthesis for Yodogawa?
The synthesis is that Yodogawa lacks the protected historical sites of a Kyoto or Nara.
Right.
But its history persists not through static preservation, but through dynamic adaptation, through continuous functional transformation.
The power of the place is in its flexibility in the face of massive, often painful change.
The groynes are the ultimate proof of that. They changed their entire function. The Kanzaki crossing's decay became a valuable historical marker. Juso just refuses to stop being Juso.
And through all that change, its core identity has always been that of a gateway.
Always a gateway. The interface. The point where goods, people like Inu Tadataka, even deities, are filtered as they enter or leave Osaka.
It's never the final destination. It's always the transition point.
And that's what this deep dive means for you, the listener. The journey through these hidden gems is about recognizing that history isn't some static artifact behind a velvet rope.
It's a continuously flowing, adapting, living force that leaves unexpected value in its wake.
Which really makes you think, if Yodogawa's whole story is about the enduring value of adaptation, it sort of forces you to ask a question about our own lives.
Okay.
I mean, how much time do we spend trying to preserve structures, old habits, old business models, whatever, that desperately need to change?
And in doing so, we might be overlooking the unexpected new value that could emerge from that decline.
That hidden ecology, right? From planned obsolescence.
So a final thought for you to explore on your own. Think about that groyne transformation. What unintentional piece, what new functional value have the forces of decay or obsolescence created in your own city, or maybe your career, or even just your neighborhood?
That's what happens when you decide to follow the flow.
You can find links to all the sources we mentioned today and explore the specific locations of these hidden gems in your show notes. Until next time, keep digging deeper.